Welcome to English Mindspace. This is not simply a place where you come to learn words, rules, or sentences. It is a space created for slowing down your thoughts, for breathing a little deeper, and for understanding what is really happening inside you when life feels confusing, heavy, uncertain, or overwhelming. Every single day, whether you realize it or not, your mind is quietly shaping your reality. It does this through thoughts you rarely stop to examine and beliefs you may not even realize you are carrying. These beliefs influence how you speak, how you act, how you respond to challenges, and how you see yourself in relation to the world around you. They affect your confidence, your hesitation, your courage, and even your silence. Many of us move through life feeling stuck, not because we lack intelligence, talent, or potential, but because we are guided by ideas formed long ago. Ideas that were created in moments of fear, pressure, or survival. Ideas that once helped us protect ourselves, fit in, or avoid pain, but now quietly limit us without our awareness. They sit in the background of our thinking, shaping our choices while pretending to be facts. In this journey, we are not here to judge ourselves. We are not here to criticize our past or force sudden change. We are not here to push, rush, or pressure ourselves into becoming someone else. We are here for something much simpler and much more powerful. We are here to understand. Understanding creates awareness. Awareness creates clarity. And clarity creates freedom. As you listen, there is nothing you need to prove. You don't need to agree with every idea. You don't need to fix yourself. You don't need to perform or impress anyone. You only need to stay present with what you hear. Let these words settle naturally. Let them move slowly through your thinking. Let them create space instead of tension. Because real growth never begins with pressure. It begins with noticing. And from that simple act of noticing, everything else becomes possible. There is a moment that almost every English learner knows deeply. A moment that feels familiar, uncomfortable, and frustrating. A moment when someone speaks to you in English, and suddenly your mind feels empty. You can hear the words. You understand the meaning. You know what the other person is saying. But when it is your turn to speak, nothing comes out. Your heart begins to beat faster. Your breathing changes, your mouth feels dry, your thoughts start racing, and inside your mind, a single question appears again and again. What if I say something wrong? This moment feels like it is about English. It looks like an English problem, but it is not. Many beginners believe their main problem is vocabulary, or grammar, or pronunciation. They think they need more words, more rules, more lessons, more practice. But very often, the real problem begins before the first word is spoken. It begins in the mind. It begins with fear. This fear is not loud or dramatic. It does not shout or attack. It whispers, quietly, constantly. It says people will laugh. It says you will sound foolish. It says you are not ready yet. It says wait a little longer. So you stay silent. At first, silence feels safe. There are no mistakes, no embarrassment, no judgment, no uncomfortable moments. But slowly, silence becomes familiar, and then it becomes a habit. And the more you stay silent, the stronger that fear becomes. You begin to believe that confident English speakers are somehow different from you. Smarter, braver, more talented, more gifted. You forget that they were once beginners too. You forget that they once struggled, hesitated, and made mistakes. Many mistakes. Think about a child learning their first language. They do not wait until they are perfect. They speak incorrectly. They mix sounds. They repeat themselves. They make mistakes without shame. And no one tells them to stop. That freedom is the reason they learn so quickly. But as adults learning English, something changes. We want to sound perfect from the beginning. We want to speak without mistakes. We want to avoid embarrassment at all costs. And because perfection is impossible, we choose silence instead. This is where the real struggle begins. You may listen to English every day. You may watch videos, movies, or lessons. You may understand more than you think. But without speaking, English stays locked inside you. It becomes knowledge without expression, something you recognize but cannot use. And slowly, another belief begins to form inside you. Maybe English is not for me. This belief is dangerous, not because it is loud, but because it feels true. And once you believe it, you begin to stop trying in small ways. You avoid conversations, you avoid opportunities, you avoid moments where you could practice. And each time you stay silent, that belief grows stronger. But here is a truth that many learners never hear. Fluency does not begin with confidence. Confidence begins after you speak. And the first step is not courage, it is permission. Permission to be imperfect. The moment you allow yourself to speak imperfect English, something important changes. The fear does not disappear, but it becomes smaller, less powerful, more manageable. You begin to see mistakes differently, not as failures, but as signals. Signals that learning is happening. But the mind resists change. It prefers comfort, even uncomfortable comfort. So when you try to speak again, the old voice returns. It reminds you of past embarrassment. It tells you to wait until you are better. Waiting feels logical, but waiting is the trap. There is no moment when English suddenly feels ready. Readiness is created through use, not before it. Many learners remain stuck for years because they keep preparing for a future that never arrives. They keep learning but not using, listening but not responding, understanding but not expressing. And slowly frustration replaces motivation. You may start thinking you are learning but not improving. But the truth is, you are improving silently. The missing piece is expression. Speaking is not the result of confidence. Speaking is the source of confidence. Each sentence you speak rewires your mind. Each imperfect conversation teaches your brain that you survived, that nothing terrible happened, that communication is possible without perfection. This is how fear loses its power. Not by fighting it, but by moving through it. There will be awkward moments. There will be pauses. There will be mistakes. But these are not signs of failure. They are signs of progress. The fluent speakers you admire today did not avoid these moments. They passed through them. And when you begin to speak, something else changes. English stops feeling like an exam. It becomes a tool, a bridge, a way to connect with others. You begin to realize that people are not waiting to judge you. Most are simply waiting to understand you. And many are kinder than you expect. When you speak, even slowly, even simply, you send a message to yourself. I am allowed to try. That message is powerful. Because once you allow yourself to try, growth becomes natural. At some point, you begin to notice something subtle changing inside you. Not suddenly, not dramatically, but quietly, almost unnoticed at first. You start paying attention to the way your mind reacts. When English appears in your life, when someone speaks to you, when you hear a sentence you don't fully understand, when you feel the familiar tension rising in your chest. Before, these moments felt automatic. Fear appeared, and you followed it. Silence came, and you accepted it. But now, something small interrupts the pattern. You notice the fear instead of immediately obeying it. This noticing does not remove discomfort. Your heart may still beat faster. Your thoughts may still hesitate. Your voice may still feel uncertain. But awareness creates distance, and distance creates choice. You begin to realize that fear is not a command, it is a suggestion, a habit of the mind repeating itself. Most fear around speaking English is not about communication, it is about identity. It is about how you think others will see you, how you imagine being judged, how you imagine being reduced to your mistakes. The mind loves to protect your image. It wants you to appear capable, intelligent, and in control. So when English threatens that image, the mind reacts. It pulls you back. It tells you to wait. It convinces you that silence is safer than exposure. But something important happens when you begin to speak anyway, even just a little, even imperfectly. You discover that the worst thing you imagine does not happen. People do not laugh the way your fear predicted. Conversations do not collapse because of one wrong word. Life continues. This realization is powerful, not because it makes you fluent, but because it weakens the story fear has been telling you for years. You begin to see that communication is not about perfection, it is about connection. And connection does not require flawless language. It requires presence, effort, and sincerity. At first, progress feels uneven. Some days you feel brave, some days you feel blocked again. Some conversations flow, others feel heavy and slow. This inconsistency can be confusing. You may wonder if you are improving or going backward. But growth is never a straight line. It moves in waves. Forward, then sideways, then forward again. Each attempt to speak leaves a trace in your mind. Your brain begins to learn that English is not dangerous, that mistakes are survivable, that discomfort passes. Slowly, your inner dialogue begins to change. The voice that once said stay silent becomes less convincing. A new voice appears, quieter but steadier. It says, try. It says, speak anyway. This is not confidence yet, it is willingness. And willingness is far more important in the beginning. You start noticing small victories. You answer without freezing. You ask a simple question. You finish a sentence without stopping yourself. These moments may seem small, but they are not. They are evidence. Evidence that change is happening beneath the surface. You also begin to notice that understanding improves when you speak. Words you once recognized passively begin to feel active. Grammar that felt confusing becomes clearer through use. Your brain starts connecting meaning to action. Speaking turns English into something alive, something flexible, something real. You stop seeing English as something you must master before using. You begin using it as you are learning it. And this shift changes everything. Mistakes no longer feel like proof of failure. They feel like feedback, information, guidance showing you where growth is happening. There is still fear, but it no longer controls every decision. You may feel nervous, but you speak anyway. You may hesitate, but you continue. This is resilience forming quietly inside you. You begin trusting yourself more, not because you are perfect, but because you have seen yourself handle imperfection. You realize that confidence is not something you wait for. It is something that builds through repetition, through experience, through action. English slowly stops feeling like an enemy. It becomes a skill you are developing, a process you are part of. And with this shift, something deeper changes. Your relationship with yourself softens. You become less harsh, less impatient, more accepting of where you are. You understand that learning is not about speed. It is about consistency, presence, and honesty. You stop comparing yourself to others so much. You focus more on your own movement, your own voice, your own growth. Each time you speak, you send a message inward. I am capable of trying. I am allowed to learn in my own time. That message reshapes the way you approach English. And slowly, it reshapes the way you approach challenges in general. You are no longer just learning a language. You are learning how to move through fear without letting it decide for you. And this skill reaches far beyond English. It changes how you face uncertainty, how you approach new situations, how you speak up in life. The transformation is not loud, it is not dramatic, but it is real. And it is building quietly, sentence by sentence. At some point, you stop noticing the change because it has become part of you. What once felt heavy now feels familiar. What once caused tension now causes curiosity instead of fear. You still make mistakes. You still pause. You still search for words sometimes. But these moments no longer feel like threats. They feel natural. You realize that nothing bad happened when you spoke imperfectly. Nothing was taken from you. Nothing was lost. What was lost instead was the illusion that you needed to be perfect to be understood. English begins to feel less like a challenge and more like a companion. Not always easy, not always smooth, but present, available, usable. You start speaking without translating every sentence in your head. You respond more naturally. Your voice sounds steadier even when it is simple. And when you don't know a word, you find another way to express the idea. This flexibility is a sign of growth, not just in language, but in mindset. You begin to trust yourself. You trust that you can handle confusion. You trust that you can survive mistakes. You trust that you can learn through experience instead of waiting for certainty. The fear does not disappear completely, but it no longer controls your actions. It may appear, but it does not decide. You notice that English is no longer something outside you. It is no longer an exam to pass. It is no longer a test of your intelligence. It has become a tool, a bridge, a way to connect with others and express what lives inside you. You notice something else too. The world feels slightly more open. Opportunities feel closer. Conversations feel possible. You realize that people are not listening for your mistakes. They are listening for meaning. And meaning can travel through imperfect words. The more you speak, the more natural it feels. The more natural it feels, the less you hesitate. And the less you hesitate, the more you grow. This cycle feeds itself. Not through pressure, not through forcing, but through gentle, consistent action. You stop measuring yourself against perfection. You start measuring yourself against yesterday. Small progress becomes visible. Clearer understanding. Faster responses. Less tension in your body when English appears. These changes may feel quiet, but they are powerful. They signal a deeper transformation taking place. You begin to understand that fluency is not a destination, it is a relationship. A relationship built over time, through patience, mistakes, and effort. You no longer wait to feel confident before speaking. You speak, and confidence follows. And one day, almost without noticing, you speak without stopping yourself. You express ideas without fear controlling your voice. You participate instead of observing from the side, not because you became perfect, but because you became comfortable being imperfect. That is the real turning point. English becomes part of you, not something you perform, not something you fear, something you use, something you live with. As this journey settles, you understand something important. Growth was never about changing who you are. It was about removing what was holding you back. Your beliefs were not enemies, they were once protection, but you no longer need all of them. You do not need to rush. You do not need to pressure yourself. You do not need to become someone else. Real change happens quietly, in moments of awareness, in small decisions to try again, in choosing presence over fear. You carry this understanding forward, not just in English, but in life. Because when you learn how to speak despite fear, you also learn how to live despite uncertainty, and that skill stays with you. This is not the end of learning, it is the beginning of trust. Trust in your voice, trust in your process, trust in yourself. And with that trust, you move forward. As we come to the end of this journey, take a quiet moment to sit with what you've heard. Nothing here was meant to push you or tell you who you must become. These words were shared to gently remind you of something you may have forgotten, that your inner world shapes how you experience everything around you. Your thoughts and beliefs are not enemies, they were created to protect you, to help you understand the world, and to guide you through uncertainty. But not every belief needs to stay forever. Some can be questioned, some can be softened, and some can be replaced with kinder, stronger ones. You don't need to change everything today. You don't need to feel confident all at once. Real growth begins quietly, often in moments no one else can see. Each time you notice fear and choose awareness instead, you take a step forward. Each time you stay curious, Instead of judging yourself, you grow stronger. These small moments matter more than you realize. Carry these ideas with you gently. Let them appear when you feel stuck, when you doubt yourself, or when you wonder if you are capable of more. You are. Growth is not about becoming someone new. It is about remembering who you already are beneath the noise. Thank you for spending this time here at English Mindspace. Keep listening, keep reflecting, and keep moving forward. One step, one sentence, one belief at a time.